Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking some of the most sprawling, complex, and honestly mind-bending claims out there regarding DARPA's alleged top-secret teleportation and time travel programs. We're going to look at a narrative that weaves together covert government research, purported quantum technology, and some incredibly high-profile figures.
So here's the massive question we're tackling today. Did the US government secretly win the Cold War using time travel, teleportation, and child chrononauts? I know, it sounds literally like a sci-fi blockbuster, right? But we're going to examine these extraordinary whistleblower claims that are fiercely defended by the people who say they actually lived them. They allege that decades ago, the United States developed ways to manipulate the time-space continuum itself.
To make sense of all this, we're going to follow a pretty clear roadmap. We'll start with the origins of Project Pegasus, then look at chronovision and quantum access, head over to the Mars jump room, discuss the alleged risks and secret supervisors, and finally, wrap up with the skepticism and official denials.
All right, let's kick things off with Part 1, Project Pegasus Origins. We are heading back to the late 1960s to look at a highly classified DARPA initiative.
Now, the alleged technological foundation for this program is fascinating. It reportedly comes straight from the confiscated papers of Nikola Tesla. The claim is that instead of normal travel, scientists figured out how to create what they called vortal tunnels. Think of these as localized folds in the fabric of time-space that literally wrapped around a person, allowing them to teleport instantly. We're talking about jumping from Woodridge, New Jersey to Santa Fe, New Mexico in the blink of an eye.
So what did that actually feel like? Well, participants, like the primary whistleblower Andrew D. Basiago, described it incredibly vividly. He claimed a cavern would basically open up in time-space, creating a really disorienting journey where you felt exactly like you were moving forward, but falling forward at the exact same time. Talk about a wild trip, right?
Now, you might be wondering, who exactly was testing this? Well, DARPA reportedly didn't use trained military adults. Instead, they recruited about 140 gifted schoolchildren to act as America's first chrononauts. Why kids? The sources claim adults were literally going insane from the timeline shifts. Kids, on the other hand, were seen as a tabula rasa, a blank slate that could handle the psychological shock. Plus, there's this bizarre detail that the holograms generated by the time-viewing devices would actually collapse if an adult tried to step inside them.
Okay, moving right along to Part 2, chronovision and quantum access. Because as we'll see, this wasn't just about physically jumping from place to place. Whistleblowers assert the program also used technology to look directly through time. Enter the chronovisor. This was allegedly a device that let the CIA completely bypass traditional espionage. Instead of sending spies, they could just step right into immersive, holographic recordings of past and future events to gather unimaginable intelligence.
And the things these child chrononauts reportedly witnessed are just staggering. We're talking about viewing the crucifixion of Jesus in 33 AD or the signing of the US Constitution. Interestingly, they noted that viewing the exact same event twice, like Lincoln's assassination, often gave them slightly different results, which heavily suggests they were tapping into a multiverse of alternate timelines. They even looked into the future. Basiago claims he probed a future Washington, D.C. in 2013, where the Supreme Court building was under 100 feet of brackish water.
According to the claims, this quantum access gave the U.S. the ultimate strategic advantage. It basically turned time itself into a completely secure vault. By 1972, the government was supposedly using quantum displacement to send sensitive military secrets forward in time to keep them safe, and then pulling intelligence back about future events. Whistleblowers say this precise tactic is actually what gave the United States the edge to win the Cold War.
Which brings us to Part 3, the Mars jump room. By the early 1980s, the narrative shifts from time travel into something even more out of this world.
The program allegedly evolved into a full-blown interplanetary mission led by the CIA. The timeline here gets incredibly trippy. Basiago claims that back in 1971, thanks to that quantum access, he was handed a research paper about life on Mars. The catch? It was a paper he wouldn't actually write until 2008. That mind-bending time loop allegedly led straight to his recruitment into a Mars training program in California using a technological bridge called a jump room.
Now brace yourself for this part. The whistleblowers claim the participants in this program were pre-identified by time travel data and deliberately groomed for national leadership. So in this small 10-person training class, the College of the Siskiyous, you reportedly had a 19-year-old Barack Obama, then known as Barry Soetoro, alongside future DARPA director Regina Dugan. The goal of this covert class?
to teleport to Mars, establish U.S. territorial sovereignty, and acclimate Martian humanoids to a human presence.
All right, let's look at part 4, risks and secret supervisors. Because as sci-fi as this all sounds, the sources stress that this unproven tech was intensely hazardous.
This was reportedly a brutal trial-and-error operation, and the physical risks for these kids were absolutely terrifying. Basiago says he personally witnessed a horrific accident during a teleportation sequence where a young boy moved at the exact wrong moment and his feet were completely sheared off. Just an unimaginable level of danger for these test subjects.
And pulling the strings behind these covert operations were supposedly some very well-known figures. Donald Rumsfeld, long before his famous stints in government, was allegedly overseeing Project Pegasus and knew all about grooming these kids. You also have Major Ed Dames reportedly acting as the Mars class instructor, and Courtney M. Hunt cited as the career CIA handler who actually prepared the chrononauts for those terrifying trips to the Martian surface.
Finally, let's head into part 5, skepticism and official denials. Because, as you can probably guess, the official record is a very, very different story. There is a massive, stark contrast here. On one side, you have these incredibly specific, detailed whistleblower testimonies. On the other, complete and total denial. The White House and DARPA officials have unequivocally stated that absolutely none of this is true. No teleportation programs, no Mars jump rooms, and definitely no involvement from figures like Barack Obama or Regina Dugan. For a much more grounded perspective, we can look at former CIA analysts like Dr. Christopher Kit Green. He suggests that, sure, experimental, fringe projects probably did exist during the Cold War, but the outcomes were psychological, not physical. In his view, nobody was actually teleporting to Mars or traveling through time. Instead, these were highly stressful intelligence failures that induced profound, lasting delusions in the human subjects involved.
But despite that heavy skepticism, the advocates are absolutely not backing down. Today, Andrew Basiago actually leads a campaign demanding the U.S. government declassify Project Pegasus. He argues that this technology shouldn't be hoarded as a military weapon. If released, he claims it could instantly solve global pollution and transit crises by moving people and goods around the world without planes, trains, or emissions.
So we're going to leave you with this lingering thought experiment to wrap up our explainer. Whether you see Project Pegasus in the Mars jump rooms as genuine suppressed history or just a really fascinating psychological phenomenon born out of Cold War paranoia, it taps into this deep human desire to master time and space. If quantum access and teleportation actually were real and they were declassified tomorrow, how would that alter the future and the very survival of the human race?